Okay, I'm doing this video here. This is the space shuttle, excuse me, the International Space Station, and this is from AP. And you'll notice this door is flapping really weird. Now, doesn't make too much sense why this would be operating this way. This is a access to space, so this is supposed to be an airtight door. This is from a different angle. Notice how it's just flapping around like a tent flap almost. Not something that's supposed to protect the oxygenated environment inside the International Space Station. My contention is this is the shot in the pool at Houston, and they just removed all the bubbles. There is an International Space Station, but nobody's in it. It's just up there flying around. So that doesn't look like a sturdy outdoor or outside latch to me. That looks like that looks kind of like a tent covering, to be honest with you, for a pup tent. Look at it flapping around. Does that really look like a space station outer access panel to you? It doesn't to me. Also, look that it opens to the outside. Look how flimsy that thing is. That's not real. That's not a real latch that keeps oxygen inside the International Space Station. Now, even if there is a secondary place in it, here you see them training in Houston in the water tank. So it's really just the same thing here. So let's just go over some little bit of a different thing here. So if you're in a plane, the doors open to the inside in a plane. Why is that? Because inside a commercial airline, they go up well over 20,000 feet, and they're pressurized. So they use that pressure to hold the door. Since the pressure inside is a lot greater than the pressure outside at above 20,000 feet especially, you can't open that door. It's you'd have to overcome several pounds per square inch to do that. So the airplane hatch takes advantage by opening inward to use the higher pressure inside the plane to seal the hatch. Now that's just the opposite of a submarine. So a submarine hatches, they all open upward to the outside. They're recessed, obviously, to take advantage of the ocean pressure to keep the hatch closed. So because if they were to swing inward, that would be stupid, because then you're having to use the hatch, the hinges on the hatch and just the seal itself to fight against the ocean pressure. So you can't open the hatch after it gets to a couple feet before you break surface. You get water in the sub, but it's not going to be enough to do any problems. So why would the International Space Station have a hatch when there's absolutely no pressure in outer space? And that just doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe one of y'all can figure it out. Another thing I want to cover, the Chinese spacewalks from 8 years ago. There's a bunch of bubbles that appeared during it, and when this from being in a pool, the bubble speeds up. If you release a bubble at the bottom, and you're holding your breath underwater, as the bubble goes up, it expands and moves faster because the pressure's less. So the Chinese kind of got snagged with the bubbles coming out. They didn't use the CGI to erase most of them. And there's also going to be, on this little bitty clip I'm going to show you, there's going to be a guy's on the spacewalk, and you'll see a reflective watch and a reflective, looks like some kind of version of a smartphone attached to his arm, and you'll see stadium lights that are reflected in it. And when you get the adverse angle, you'll see that those lights aren't there because it's all faked. So I'm gonna run that now and bring it up and talk as it goes. So here you go. The bubbles can be seen coming up, and they're going to do it slow. so you can see it. Do you see the bubble going up? Because they're doing it in a pool, and they didn't cover up. Was one that they slipped by on the CGI, and you can do searches for this, and you'll get a better, clearer picture. I'm doing this. This is actually a 3rd generation copy I'm using, and there's our guys have been caught with with water bubbles too. Now here's that stadium light I'm talking about. The reflection, see it? Okay, so that's something, a row of lights reflecting in the 2 surfaces. One is a watch and one that smart mini computer device. Now on the obverse angle, that's the obverse angle. There should be lights there. So it was done on a stage. So yeah, there's some things to keep in mind. The space station is up there, but nobody's in it. If you look at all the space agencies around the world, they all use the NASA or a variation of the NASA vector. That means they're all in on it. It's just a way that countries can scam money from their people. And there's, like I said, there is a space station up there. You can watch it through a telescope, but nobody's up there. They use CGI, they use the Vomit Comet, and they use harnesses. And if you, there's a kind of a crazy lady, her YouTube channel is Bling Bling, and she spends probably 3 hours a day going over NASA footage, finding CGI screw-ups and harnesses. And another thing to keep in mind is there's no internal hatches on the International Space Station. When I mean internal hatches, I'm talking about, like, if you're in a sub or a ship, every so often there's a hatch you have to go through in case there's a breach, they can seal off and not lose the whole submarine and or ship. The only hatches in the International Space Station are right at the docking ports, and yet it's been up there for an awful long time, and they've never had a breach, never been hit by anything. And supposedly, even a flake of paint traveling at 6,000 miles an hour would be enough to puncture the aluminum sides of the space station. Remember, it's made out of aluminum. Anyway, check all that stuff out. Thank you. I'm out.